All right, Shane, how you doing, man?
Great. What about yourself, Shannon?
I'm all right. I'm doing all right, bro. Summer is fast approaching.
It's
I'm
already
getting
here
my
in Florida.
yeah. I'm getting myself geared up for those warriors of summer, the good old hornets and wasps. You know what I'm saying? That's that means I'm staying indoors most of the time.
Those are aggressive, poisonous little creatures.
Yeah, 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 man. But yeah, okay. So I wanted to start out with an article you sent me here on it's called Semaphore. Is that right?
Yeah,
Semaphore.
semaphore. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure how to pronounce it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So here it says a dying empire led by bad people. Poll finds young voters despairing over U.S. politics. And then I'll read the first paragraph here. Young voters overwhelmingly believe that almost all politicians are corrupt and that the country will end up worse off than when they were born, according to new polling from Democratic firm Blueprint, obtained exclusively by Semaphore. So what's up with that, man? Why do you think people are why do you think the younger generation is sort of falling out of love with politics and politicians and the whole administration. What's
You
going on?
know, nothing makes you confront reality like being broke.
Yeah, that's true.
Nothing makes reality slap you square in the face
Mhm.
like being out of money.
Yeah.
And being broke and not being able to get a job that's gonna cover your bills and everything, and
Mhm.
just basically living in a system that's not working for you.
Mhm.
And that's where a lot of these people are, and there
Right.
are a lot of us that are in that
Mhm.
position.
Mhm. Mhm.
And unfortunately it seems to be working quite well for people that are retired, that are
Mhm.
receiving their social security benefits, and for people that aren't retired, that are receiving social security benefits and things.
Mhm.
um I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're a working person in America
Mhm.
who's at the bottom end of the totem pole, like most of us are, the
Mhm.
system, it's not working very well for us.
Right.
If you're not a working person in America, then the system's actually not all that bad. Yeah,
Right.
obviously it could be better, it could be worse or whatever, but the
Mhm.
worst position to be in America is a working person at the bottom end of the totem pole, especially just starting out like the Gen Z.
Mhm.
And the most interesting part of this article is a couple paragraphs down,
Mhm.
where they kind of break down the numbers a little bit. They get into the weeds of it.
Mhm.
And it
Where's that?
says,
Where?
it's the third paragraph.
Okay. Mhm.
And it says it says, as part of the online poll, 18 to 30-year-old registered voters, Blueprint asked participants to respond to a series of questions about the American political system. 49% agreed to some extent that elections in the country don't represent people like them.
Mhm.
So again, age 18 to 30,
Mhm.
mostly Gen Z. 51% agreed to some extent that the political system in the US, quote, doesn't work for people like me.
Mhm.
That's 51%. And 64% backed the statement that America is in decline.
Mhm.
A whopping 65% agreed either strongly or somewhat nearly all politicians are corrupt and make money from their political power. Only 7% disagreed with that statement. And I think
Right.
it's really important to kind of look at the tea leaves, kind of the way that a farmer would look out in the distance and kind of anticipate what the weather is going to be like.
Mhm.
He sees dark storm clouds out in the distance that are rolling in. He knows it's going to rain, knows
Right.
that it might storm. He knows that there might be a tornado, that there might be really, really bad weather or something.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of these people 18 to 30, they don't have a whole lot of life experience, but
Mhm.
they're able to have a little bit of intuition, and they're able to kind of read, they're able to read the room.
Mhm.
And they're able to see that the US government is able to cut endless checks
Mhm.
to Ukraine, to
Mhm.
Taiwan, to
Mhm.
Israel. That there is no, when it comes to foreign governments, there's
Mhm.
no shortage of resources that the federal government is willing to pony up to to support foreign governments.
Mhm.
But then when it comes for voters, for working class people here in America, the federal government couldn't give any less of a damn.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of what this poll, I think that's kind of what this poll is telling us, is not only do young people and people at the bottom end of the totem pole, the working class, not only do they legitimately and honestly feel like they've been abandoned, because they have by their government,
Mhm.
but not just that, but that their government that their government cares about giving, about doling out money and resources and services to
Mhm.
government, to foreign governments.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
That.
so that makes it
Mhm.
even worse.
Yeah. That's a that this is an interesting article here because it there was a guy, I forget what his name is, but uh he would go on he used to come on that show, I mean on CNN and stuff a lot, and I think he was on Bill Maher at one point, um talking about how younger generations feel like, you know um the economic uh situation in our country is basically not good for younger people at all, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, they're disparaging of politics. They're like, look, I don't really care because it's, even when we vote, it doesn't matter who we really vote for. Nothing gets done. Nothing. There's no policies in place that are going to actually benefit us. So why should we even really care? Now, that probably, you know, that probably that probably is more troubling for the left or for the Democratic Party, right, than it is for the Republican Party. And I'm gonna say my reason why I think that is. The reason why I think that is because I think you have somebody like Donald Trump who represents a particular sort of unique, you know, there's a certain interest I think that people have in him because he's not he doesn't, it's kind of like he goes off script. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Oh, you weren't supposed to talk about the the fact that you might the fact that you might you know pardon Julian Assange, right? Or the fact that you would be willing to take donations in the form of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Okay. See, or the fact that you would end conflicts overseas, right? I think those type of things actually do appeal to younger people, right? They appeal to working people, right? Because they see that, okay, what is it about him that no president has ever said, not even Obama, right, said he would pardon Julian Assange, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and that, I mean, that was a very long time ago. I don't remember exactly what happened with that. I know it was he was the founder of WikiLeaks, and There was
His
documents.
crime was that he was a journalist. That's ultimately what his crime was.
You mean he was a true journalist, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
He was a true journalist, and they and uh, and and what did he expose about our government that made him?
Well, the very first thing
Mhm,
involved Bradley Manning, a
mhm,
a pro a I think Bradley Manning was in I think Bradley Manning was he might have been an intelligence analyst or something like that for the Army or for the Air Force.
mhm,
And Bradley Manning was in Iraq
mhm,
and was overseeing a live feed from like helicopters and stuff.
mhm,
And and what I'm about to say is not a conspiracy theory. That like you can go and Google, like you can look up on YouTube Bradley Manning Iraq video or something like that.
mhm,
And what he witnessed video taken from, I think it was from an Apache helicopter,
mhm,
and it was US servicemen in the helicopter that, I guess to have a good time, they started opening fire on a family that were driving in a minivan
mhm,
um in on a street in Iraq. This
mhm,
family, there was absolutely no reason to suspect that this family were insurgents or terrorists or enemy combatants or anything like that.
mhm,
They just opened fire on them, and I believe they killed everybody in the minivan.
mhm,
And Bradley Manning was so horrified at what he witnessed, and I would recommend anybody go and see that footage,
mhm,
that he leaked it to Julian Assange.
mhm.
And at that time Julian Assange was hailed as a hero of the left,
Right.
because remember, the war in Iraq was a Republican thing.
Mhm.
What was a stupid it was a stupid part of the Bush doctrine.
Right.
So at that time, there a lot of the left were fans of uh of Julian Assange.
Mhm,
But ultimately, the the cardinal sin that he committed was that he built an online network, WikiLeaks, which
mhm,
was used to humiliate the powerful, because the powerful were doing the powerful were doing immoral things, and they were
mhm,
doing embarrassing things,
mhm,
like
mhm.
doing weird um you know
Yeah, stuff like
doing weird behaviors with
yeah.
young people, I'll just say that.
Okay. Okay.
And then
Yeah. Okay.
it revealed corruption, it revealed all kinds of things.
Mhm,
And the thing is, people in power don't like to be humiliated,
mm, mm.
because they think that we're all just pawns,
Right.
and they think that they're the players,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
Right.
And
It was.
any time that you upset that relationship, they get
Mhm.
really really mad, and they start putting people in jail, and they start killing them.
Right. 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 And Julian Assange has been in prison, or he's been in. He
What
hasn't.
happened,
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah. Explain.
what happened was, he had to flee to the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Hmm.
And Julian Assange was an Australian citizen, you
Right.
know.
Mhm.
So he ended up being in London. I think the reason he was in London was that he had like
Dual
I
passport or something.
something like that.
Dual
I don't
citizen.
remember exactly why he was there,
Hmm.
but he ended up catching wind that the British government were going to take him into custody,
Hmm.
because there was a false allegation that he had sexually assaulted a girl in
Okay.
Sweden.
Right.
And
Now I remember
it
that.
turns yeah, and it turns out that allegation was totally false.
Right.
And the but this was all a ploy, because the US government wanted to get a hold of him so they could put him to death.
Okay.
Because what he did was, he was a journalist,
Hmm.
and he embarrassed people that were in power.
Right.
People, he made it known to the public that people within the within the arena of classified information,
Hmm.
that they were misusing that power
Right.
to
Right.
literally, to in the case of the video that was publicized, which by the way, that video, it didn't harm any servicemen
Hmm.
by revealing the video. The only thing it did was it
It,
it revealed an atrocity committed against innocent people. That's all
yeah.
that it did.
Yeah.
And then what the intelligence community will say is, oh well, it reveals sources and methods, and you can't, and you can't publicize things like that because it puts people in danger. Bullshit. It doesn't put
Hmm.
anybody in danger.
Hmm.
The thing is, videos like that should be made public,
Right.
so that we can bring people to justice, because that's beneath our military to allow people to continue serving in our military that will do things like that.
Hmm.
That's beneath our military. That's
Hmm.
not that's not that's not the standard that we as a country hold ourselves to, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's certainly there's certainly something to be said for just war theory, right?
Yeah.
The way you're supposed to conduct yourself in times of war and things like that. I think that's a big, a big, a big thing and a big, concern. Um, I was just watching this yesterday. I watched the first episode of this show called The Veil,
Mhm.
and it's about what takes place. Well, it's a fiction, but you know I suppose it's related to you know it's related to some real events, that or whatever. And the 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 woman who is an agent goes to this camp where there's um I'm trying to remember like where ISIS started. And man, can I even?
I think it was
I
in
don't even know
it
if I
was
can
in
say
Syria, wasn't it, that ISIS
that.
started?
Yeah, you're right. So like in Syria, but they had they have these
We helped to found them too.
right.
Our CIA helped to fund them
I
because
think
they were the enemy of Assad, and we decided that we wanted that we had to overthrow Assad.
right now who's Assad, the Syrian
So
president?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, Bashir al-Assad. That's who you're
Bashir
speaking of.
al-Assad. Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Bashir al-Assad. And then what did he do? He got help from Russia to
Yeah. So the
yeah.
thing is, the Russians have a naval base in
Hmm.
Syria,
Hmm.
and the naval base, it's an ongoing invitation by the Syrian government,
Okay.
and and the thing is, we don't like Russia having a naval base there. We don't like,
Hmm.
which that's a naval base on the Mediterranean, and we don't like Russia having naval bases near the Mediterranean or in the Black Sea.
Right.
And
Right.
NATO doesn't like it. So that's one of the reasons that the United States and NATO to a larger degree decided back around like 2009 or 10 or so that Assad had to go.
Hmm.
That we didn't care about what the will of the Syrian people was,
Hmm.
that we would just roll in there. We sent troops into Syria, and we still occupy the oil fields of Syria.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
To this day,
Okay.
U.S. troops were there. To this day, U.S. troops are still stationed in Syria.
Right.
Um, and it's a violation of international law because it's not at the invitation of the Syrian government.
Okay. Okay.
So the thing is, that shoots the whole oh, what do they call it, the rules based order. It kind of blows that whole thing up,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
what we're
I
doing in
guess.
Syria.
Yeah. I guess for me, like while when we're talking about this, I'm trying to back backtrack from because what's so just crazy about all this is the fact that like we lived through all this. This is not something that happened like in the 1950s or 60s, which I want to talk about because I feel like I feel like there's some stuff that happened back then that led up to some of this that we're talking about now. But I'm just it is sort of surreal because it's like we were we were like in high school when all of this was going on, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
then, not to mention, what happened in Afghanistan and, just everything that has sort of happened over what the last 20 years or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seems like it's I want to say like what we were talking about before, which is that is why young people don't believe in politics.
Well, and and I think that is something that even young people that don't have a full picture understanding of the way
Hmm.
the system works. I mean, frankly, none of us do. It doesn't matter how many books you've read about the system. It doesn't matter how many lectures, podcasts, whatever you've listened to.
Hmm.
A lot it's all smoke and mirrors and everything,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And but the thing that like I said earlier, when you're broke,
Hmm.
reality hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And for them, they know that this system, it's not working for them.
Hmm.
And I think the problem is that we have an we have a we have a system that's top heavy,
Hmm.
that's not democratic in the name of democracy, where
Hmm.
where where you have all these unelected bureaucrats, you have all these unelected people in the intelligence agencies, and they're all protected by this aura of classified information that only they're allowed to be privy to.
Hmm.
Nobody else is allowed to be privy to it.
Yeah.
And the thing that WikiLeaks did was WikiLeaks revealed that there are items that are classified
Hmm.
that don't need to be classified, because the
Hmm.
justification for classifying anything is to to keep to protect to protect people.
Yeah.
Like, so you would not declassify a document
Hmm.
if it would reveal that we have spies in Russia.
Right.
Because the document could look harmless, but if the document is revealing sources and methods,
Hmm.
and it would clearly demonstrate that we do in fact for sure have spies in Russia,
Right.
then that would put the people that are working for U.S. intelligence in Russia, that would put them in immediate danger. Yeah,
So you
so
so you would say that that's like a legitimate reason
yes.
to have
Now,
something. Yeah.
but the reason that they're also pissed off at Julian Assange, and also the
Military dude that the military
Snowden,
Snowden.
um
Yeah.
um Edward Snowden, right?
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think his name what was Edward Snowden.
Yep. I
Um,
remember him. Yeah.
the reason that they hate those people so much is that both of them revealed
Hmm.
that there's a lot of stuff out there that's classified,
Hmm.
that's only classified to keep to keep the people that deal in this little world of top secret and classified stuff, to keep them powerful,
Hmm.
so that they can cling on to their power.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because in many ways knowledge is power, right? So if they're able to conceal all this information, and they're able to sit on top of it, and then whenever they make a mistake, they're able to classify that,
Hmm.
to protect their ego and to protect their reputation and everything.
Hmm.
When if you or I make a mistake, it's not we don't have the power to classify it.
Yeah.
You know,
Brother,
we just have to deal with it.
yeah. And on top of that, they'll blow it up on everywhere. Say, oh, so and so, did this and that and blah blah blah. And that's funny because the show that I was telling you about that I was
Mhm.
watching yesterday, the woman, um, she, so she went to a NGO camp for the
Mm.
working with she was working with the United Nations, right?
Mhm.
Now she's not a United. She doesn't work for the United Nations. She's an agent, but she went to the camp and she caught one of the UN like guys messing with one of the refugees in the camp, right? Now she
Mm.
told him, she said, if you let me take this woman who's suspected of terrorism, if you let me take her with me, I will not report you to the to the you know to the UN whatever about your misconduct here at the camp.
Mhm.
you know, but it just, I guess my point with that is it goes to show you that like there's a it's like there is a certain level of, the government will look the other way
Yeah.
if they get what they want, right? Which is ultimately to control, to me, to control a region or control a narrative or control, you know what I mean, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
to basically have control. And she was manipulating him because he had certain
Well,
weaknesses.
and you see, the thing is, you're talking about the worker that she caught,
Yeah.
right? So the thing, the reason that she was able to have power over that worker is that that worker knew that there was some kind of a mechanism where if if the accusation were reported,
Mhm.
that it would be investigated, and that this worker would be brought to justice, right?
Right. Right.
The problem in the intelligence community, and in the people that run all these alphabet agencies in the federal government, and it's
Mhm.
not just in our country, it's in the other ones. We just happen to be the biggest behemoth on the block.
Mhm.
um these people, there is no mechanism of justice,
Mhm.
that there is no corrective mechanism that prevents them from being crooked, or that prevents them from being corrupt.
Right. Okay. I
there
understand what you're saying.
there is nobody that can go to them and if you don't do X,
Mhm.
then I'm going to go and tell the whole world about you.
Right. But wait. Let me ask that. So isn't that the job of the president though? Like, isn't that the job of the president and Congress and senators to sort of have a hold on what secret, well, what do they call agencies, right? Like
Yeah,
CIA, stuff like that do.
but the thing you have to think about is, okay, so a president will be in office for 4 years, maybe 8 years tops, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You could be working for the CIA for 30 years.
Hmm.
And that means you've got 30
Okay.
years to build your own little kingdom,
Yeah.
to fire the people that are not going to be loyal to you and to your vision,
Right.
and for you to hire anybody that you want.
Okay.
And then and,
Right.
and then what you're able to do is you're also able to grant people the ability to go into a skiff and look at classified documents, and you're
Hmm.
also able to deny other people that right.
Right.
So what you're able to do is you're able to operate behind this veil, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody's able to pierce it because that veil is sacred.
Right. Now. So, because this, espionage, secret agency, all this stuff. It's interesting, and it's I'm very curious about it. I'm also very trepidatious because I mean, they make you feel that way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I kind of look at it like, dude, if they want to come for you, they will come for you. It's
Mhm.
not, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? You can't really, you can blow the whistle, but you do
Well,
that, your time is up. You better
well, I mean,
start
look
getting
at
this in order.
well, look at what happened to John F. Kennedy, to
Right.
Robert Kennedy, and to
Hmm.
Martin Luther King, and to Malcolm X.
Hmm.
You look at because basically in America, the way that the system works, you have kind of two means of uh of kind of acquiring power within the system, within the
Hmm.
political system.
Hmm.
One is through political maneuvering within the system itself and getting behind the veil,
Hmm.
right? And then plopping down your little kingdom, and
Hmm.
then starting to build your kingdom from there. Yeah,
Hmm.
and collaborating with other people that are doing the same thing. Yeah, like
Hmm.
you're a head honcho in the CIA.
Hmm.
You're going to play ball with the head honcho in the FBI.
Okay.
Because you don't want somebody in the FBI to leak something to the press that's
Hmm.
going to embarrass your agency.
Right.
And they don't want you to do the same thing to them, right? So everybody has the incentive to kind of play ball, who's behind the veil.
Right. Right. And
So
there's
so
there's
that's
yeah.
that's the first means of power, and then the other
Hmm.
means of power in America is through populism,
Okay.
where where you're building a base
Hmm.
among the people,
Hmm.
and you're going into government almost like a ram.
Right.
You're going into the government, and you're pounding at the door, pounding at the door, pounding at the door,
Yeah.
and you have all these people that are voting for your movement, and you end up having the cascade of votes that forces you into the corridors of power.
Hmm.
And that's the method that the founders at least envisioned, right?
Is the populism
Yeah, the populist means of
or the populist?
acquiring
Sorry. Yeah.
power.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that you have kind of those two pathways.
Hmm.
Now, what I would argue is that the people behind the veil, that
Hmm.
are like your classic case, would be somebody like J. Edgar Hoover or Alan Dulles,
Hmm.
creatures of the 50s and 60s and 70s.
Yeah. These
Um,
big creatures.
yeah, and so you could take them as examples.
Hmm.
Um, they view the populist leaders as being
Hmm.
threats to their power, because the whole thing that unifies the populist
Hmm.
movement together, it's a scapegoat mechanism, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And they're normally a populist political movement. They're typically not scapegoating the average Joe,
Hmm.
out in the community. They're
Hmm.
usually scapegoating the government somehow.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the people behind the veil in the government, what they'll do is they'll argue and say, like they did in the case of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X,
Hmm.
and of Robert Kennedy Jr. And of Robert Kennedy also,
Hmm.
is that these people are threats, are domestic threats.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because what they would say is that these are people who are not willing to play ball
Hmm.
within within the window of acceptability that we have articulated to them as the government.
Hmm.
These are people that are not willing to play ball,
Hmm.
and so we have to figure out a way to co-opt their movement. We have to figure out a way to kind of dissipate the populist movement. And what they
Yeah.
would argue is they're doing it for national security reasons.
Ah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
and
That's a question I was going to ask. So
it's
now,
ironic, and
yeah.
it's very ironic that the people, and so you can take, so let's take non-political people like
Mhm.
Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and Jimmy Hoffa. You can take
Okay.
people like that.
Yeah. The
It's
guy who used to run the
the uh the truckers union.
The unions. Yeah,
Yes,
he's running unions.
the
Yeah,
the Teamsters union. So
right.
you're talking about big time populist leaders
Mm-hmm.
who have every incentive in the world to wheel and deal with the people in government that wield power. You
Mm-hmm.
know, those are people that the people behind the veil in government really fear more than anybody.
Okay.
So it's just ironic that what normally ends up happening is when you see people that have a populist mandate
Mm-hmm.
that that arise through some kind of a populist movement,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of the lightning rod of it.
Mm-hmm.
They have a tendency to either get taken down through some kind of a contrived scandal,
Mm-hmm.
or they end up with a bullet in their head.
And you know something?
You know,
That's exactly, and that's what leads me back to my whole thing about that show, right? She was gonna she was gonna basically pull the rug from under him. You know, it's manipulation.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? They're saying basically, you do what we say, otherwise we're gonna ruin you, right?
yeah.
Or
And
we'll
if not, we'll just kill
or
you.
liquid,
You
yeah,
know, and that's
yeah, liquidate, Shane, liquidate.
yeah,
You know, but what I was gonna say is, now you said they will say they're doing it for the intention of trying to protect this country, right, and its
hmm,
citizens. So would you say that that's wrong for them to,
of
all the
course.
espionage stuff, all the sort of undercutting, the manipulation that they need to use in order to get their way, or whatever? Well, they're saying it's for the interest of this country. They're saying that, hey, we want to protect this country from some potential terrorist attack, right?
Well,
We,
and isn't that always the justification though? Like, I
mhm,
mean, wasn't that the justification for the Holocaust? Wasn't that the justification for the gulags in the Soviet Union? That was
mhm,
the justification for Mao starving large swaths of the population who were political enemies.
mhm.
The justification always is we're doing it for national security reasons. We're doing it to
For the good of the nation.
yeah,
Mhm.
we're doing it, we're inflicting harm to prevent harm
Right.
to the
So,
country.
let's get into that now. Let's get into that, because now when we talk about, well, we're doing it for the good of the nation. All right. So now we talk about MK Ultra. This is something. This is something I want to, I want to bring that into this conversation, because I just store, I mean, I try not to, get autistic about things and
Mm-hmm.
go down these rabbit holes, or what they talk about now. Told you I was watching that dude named Sam Tripoli, and
Mm-hmm.
he was talking about doom scrolling. So I try to avoid that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it is kind of hard to avoid that kind of stuff when you hear about stuff like MK Ultra. you know, uh,
Yeah.
Maybe you could just give a little introduction on what was going on
Well,
with
so
that.
I think again, without going too much into the weeds and getting too autistic with it,
Yeah,
like you said,
yeah.
um, I think the backdrop for it, I think to really understand the fertile soil that things like MK Ultra grew out of, we
Mhm,
have to understand um that post World War II America was a totally different America than had ever existed before.
mhm,
In post World War II America, the national security industry came first.
okay,
First and foremost, that was the first time that we really had that veiled class of people where everything is classified and it's all cloak and dagger and murky and everything, and they're treated as like a class above the democratic process.
okay,
That elected officials go into the system, and then leave the system, the veiled class
Mm-hmm.
stay in the system,
Mm-hmm.
and then a lot of the time their children end up taking over in the system for parents, right?
Right.
Like, so the thing is, you had Dwight D. Eisenhower
Yeah.
warn at the very end of his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
He said to beware of the military industrial complex.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So
Dwight D. Eisenhower.
that's where that term comes from, is from him.
Yes,
Okay.
to my knowledge, he was the first one to really. It was probably used before that, but
Mm-hmm.
that was when it really was
So,
infused
yeah.
to the American psyche.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually, I believe it was his farewell speech, the very end of his
Okay.
presidency. Dwight D. Eisenhower basically said the military industrial complex
Mm-hmm.
and in our democratic system, they can't coexist.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You can try to straddle the line, but at the end of the day, the wolf will always eat the sheep.
But
You know,
now, let me ask this: wasn't he the? No, that was that him or no? Let me ask. Was
Dwight Eisenhower was a highly decorated general during World War II.
right now, but he didn't. He did not. He was not the one who um commanded the bombs to be dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right?
I
That
believe that
was
was Curtis. I think that was Curtis LeMay. In fact, I'm pretty sure Eisenhower was disgusted at the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Um, and I know it's a very controversial thing to talk about,
mhm,
but Eisenhower till his dying day believed that dropping both atomic bombs,
mhm.
especially dropping the second atomic bomb, was totally unnecessary.
Okay.
And Dwight Eisenhower thought that dropping the first bomb was something that we probably shouldn't have done.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Especially nuking the two most Christian cities in Japan.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that we nailed the cathedral in both cities.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
it was disgusting. I mean, the entire thing. And so somebody like Eisenhower was not a huge cheerleader for it.
Hmm. Okay.
You know,
Hmm. And so Eisenhower was saying, beware of the military industrial
yeah,
complex, and it was, and so you think that he was including the what you call the veiled,
yeah,
you know, because okay, when you
and
talk about, yeah,
basically warning about them.
right, right, and how much influence and I guess power they have back doors, right? Oh, dude, do you remember that movie? That takes me back to what I was thinking. Do you remember that movie, The Good Shepherd?
I never saw it.
You never saw that movie?
Nope.
Oh man, that was a cold movie, bro. The dude said, the dude said, now I was young when I saw this movie, but the dudes, you know, uh, uh, hold up, man. I'm gonna pull it up right now. I'm gonna pull it up, the actors in that movie, bro, because I gotta tell you, I think, hold on, uh, okay, so it was Matt Damon and Joe Pesci, right?
Hmm.
Now there's some other actors in here, Robert De Niro, Angelina Jolie. We know what's going on with Robert De Niro right now. He's up in the Bronx having himself
Hmm.
a good old, you know, uh, you know, senior moment or whatever. I don't know, but he's so in the movie though. Matt Damon plays a secret agent. Okay, he gets recruited out of college. Okay, from like Yale,
Hmm.
you know, and he's an English major, I think. And he joins a secret society. This is the first thing. He joins the Skull and Bones
Ooh.
Society. Okay. Then secondly, he goes on to start working with, I guess, the CIA or whatever. So he runs into, he goes to see Joe Pesci, and Joe Pesci, I think, is maybe, he might be in the. I can't remember if he was a mafia member of the mafia, or something like that. But he's like in New Jersey, in Atlantic
Mhm.
City, on the whatever, they live over there. So he goes to his house. The Italian the Sorry, Joe Pesci says, uh, the Italians, we got our food. You know, uh, he said the he said the black people. He didn't say black people. He said the N word.
Mm.
He said they got their music. He said he was naming all these people. He said that like, we got this, we got that. So he looked at Matt Damon, who's the CIA agent, and he said, and but you guys, what do you have? He said, uh, he said, we have this country. The rest of you are just visiting.
Mm. Mhm. It's very, very true.
you
You
know,
know,
that's kind of the complex. I mean, you talk about the veil and stuff like, it's because
mhm.
they have it sort of ingrained in their mind that, like, this is our country. Everybody else is just, and we're just trying to protect our interests. Right.
And I think if so, a lot of people talk about the Kennedy assassination.
Mhm.
I think people say that that's the most studied assassination in history, is the
Mhm.
Kennedy assassination.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's really, really important because President Kennedy took the warnings of Dwight Eisenhower very seriously.
Okay. Mhm.
And President Kennedy, I think it was in 1962, and there when he was quoted in the New York Times as having said that he was going to smash the CIA up
Mhm.
and break them into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the wind.
Mhm.
And a lot of it was, and he had fired the head of the CIA named
Mhm.
Alan Dulles
Mhm.
over the Bay of Pigs incident down
Okay.
in Cuba. Basically, what happened was they had planned a CIA operation down there
Mhm.
in Cuba, and it never consulted the president.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they went to the president and they said, "Hey, we're doing this thing, and we also need air support."
Mhm.
And President Kennedy was like, "No, I
Mhm.
didn't approve this.
Right.
And remember, Bucko, it stops with me.
Yeah.
I'm the president."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
He just to interject there. This is how you know he was serious. Okay.
right,
About his command. Now I'm gonna tell you a story. He I listened to a recording of John Kennedy get upset about his administration purchasing a couch for his wife. And he said, he was like, with that Boston accent,
mhm.
he's like, did you order that up there? Well, it's like, well, I'm pissed. You take that shit back.
Yeah, and the thing is, he took it very seriously.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the guy was flawed, like everybody else is,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's a very important thing. It's either he was assassinated
Mm-hmm.
by a lone gunman
Mm-hmm.
in some miraculous thing, and I mean, and it must have been a miracle because of the magic bullet and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I mean, the whole Lee Harvey Oswald thing, it doesn't make any sense
Mm-hmm.
for any thinking person. And what I would say is go read the Warren Commission report.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know, the Warren
Oswald
Commission so the Warren Commission report was the official investigation into President Kennedy's assassination, um put together by Congress.
mm-hmm.
Alan Dulles, who he had fired, what was one of the people on the commission.
Mhm.
And Earl Warren, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was the head of the Warren Commission.
Okay.
And the thing is rife with inconsistencies and all kinds of problems. If you ever want to go read a good bullshit story,
Mhm.
go read the Warren Commission report.
Okay.
Um,
Mhm.
but I guess that the thing is, the implication of the Kennedy assassination is it's big, because
Mhm.
if the intelligence agencies were involved in murdering their commander in chief and murdering the president,
Mhm.
what does that say
Yeah.
about how the country is governed?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, this is all the way back in 1963.
Yeah.
That's way more than 50 years ago.
Mhm.
That was a long time ago.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the thing is, it's a really really important thing, and the more documents that are declassified
Mhm.
about everybody involved at that time period,
Mhm.
Jack Ruby, Lee Harvey Oswald, President Kennedy, you know, all kinds of stuff, and even the documents that were declassified from the Soviet Union,
Mhm.
um, you know, it really does look like that our government killed the president. If
Mhm.
they killed the president, I mean, basically, what that does, it it validates every inclination that those 18 to 30-year-old voters have, which is that this government does not serve them.
And it has no real power to do so. It has no real. It has no real. It's not even power. It
Well,
has no
they
real.
have all the guns and the bombs.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it has no real essence. It has. I mean, how do I put this, man?
It has no virtue. It
It
has,
has no virtue,
you
and
know,
it has no. Yeah, it has no virtue,
there's no
and
moral code. There
yeah,
there's no moral framework that undergirds this thing. It literally, it's
yeah,
just power in
and for
in manufacturing consent.
yeah, and for sure, and for sure.
So so you mentioned MK Ultra.
Hmm.
So you've got MK Ultra.
Hmm.
There's also operate. There was Mockingbird, right?
Okay. Hmm.
And then there was Operation Mongoose.
Hmm.
Um, so Operation Mongoose was originally the assassination plot to kill Fidel Castro.
Okay.
Now, killing Fidel Castro, you know, I have no moral qualms
Yeah,
about
we
that.
know.
Now,
We know what you. We know
you
what
know,
you think about him, Shay.
but but the thing is, there's a pretty good argument to be made that Operation Mongoose
Hmm.
was that that was the organized system by the CIA that was utilized to that Operation Mongoose, which was an assassination plot to kill a head of state, to kill the Cuban head of state,
Hmm.
that machine was turned on President Kennedy to
Mm,
kill him,
okay.
because
Yeah.
they viewed President Kennedy as being an obstacle to a lot of things, but most importantly, waging the war in Vietnam.
Hmm.
Because
Did he?
President Kennedy told them over my dead body, told
Yeah.
them you're not getting that war.
Yeah. 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 Did he know? Did Kennedy know that they were attempting to assassinate Castro?
Oh
And
yeah, well
and
yeah,
and
Kennedy
so
knew all about it.
he told them no, you're not. You cannot go and assassinate him.
Right.
Or was he in? Okay. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
well, oh no. So Kennedy was fine was fine with them covertly working to assassinate Castro.
Okay. Hmm.
But at the same time, Kennedy and his or John Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General,
Hmm.
they both ended up kind of getting cold feet with allowing the FBI and the CIA to collaborate with all of this gun running and training militias and everything, which they were doing in the bayous of Louisiana, and they
Okay.
were also doing in South Florida.
Hmm.
Um, they didn't like what the CIA was doing,
Hmm.
especially as they were learning more about it.
Hmm.
So they ended up putting a kibosh on it. I believe
What's
it was
that?
Robert.
What's a
Oh,
kibosh?
like they ended up saying you got to tone this down.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Like we're going to start reducing your budget. We're going to start reducing the number of militiamen that you're allowed to train and all that kind of stuff. And they didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that they viewed it was they were like, you're just an elected person.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
this is my kingdom.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know,
a, I'm a, I'm a, I'm a noble
your
of the
claim to
United
fame,
States.
yeah, your claim to fame is that you won an election.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, bro. There is a sense that there is a feeling that you get that like that these officials and these people that are talking and stuff like that are just puppets. And the reason why people feel like that is because okay, first of all, I'm gonna go on a rant right here. Okay.
mhm.
First of all, you got AOC and who, whoever that black girl, the black lady was, I'm not trying to, you know, be
Oh, Cori
disrespectful.
Bush,
Is that her name? No,
mhm.
no.
Or
Uh,
I forget.
the one that called Marjorie Taylor Greene a bad, a blonde-eyed,
Oh yeah.
bleached
I don't
blonde
remember.
butch body.
Yeah.
You got all that type of stuff. AOC baby girl, don't even play, and I think something's wrong with your eyelashes, and it's like when you see the kind of high school drama like that play out in places where we're supposed to have this sort of high regard for, it does put into question if I mean if this really matters at all.
Well,
When you see presidents who don't really know how to talk, and then they gotta read a script, and then they say end of quote, like they literally said, they say their speech, and then they say end of quote at the on the screen. You gotta wonder. I mean, is this just to keep all of us sort of feeling like we're included in this political,
100%.
engagement? You
Well,
know what I'm saying?
so you have to remember that veiled class of people,
Hmm.
the the thing that allows them to maintain their power, the very beating heart of their entire kingdom,
Hmm.
it are it is keeping the country safe
Hmm.
from foreign threats.
Hmm.
And you see, the thing is, when you go back to the 1960s, and you're looking at the Kennedy administration,
Hmm.
President Kennedy's goal was not to just beat the chest on the Soviets,
Hmm.
which he did. I mean, the Cuban Missile Crisis, President Kennedy did not back down. He was very intelligent and strategic the way he did it.
Hmm.
But his goal was to thaw out the Cold War.
Right. Okay.
His goal was to make it so that our leadership and the Soviet leadership could become close enough that we could have a mutual respect for one another.
Right.
Because what John F. Kennedy, in fact, my favorite speech ever delivered by a sitting president was delivered by President Kennedy at the American University. It was like he delivered it 2 or 3 months before he was killed. And
Hmm.
I'd recommend anybody go and listen to it because it's great. And the theme of the speech is peace. That's the
Okay.
topic of the speech.
Hmm.
And what he says is that we must work to create a new order in the world where big countries can't kick around little countries,
Hmm. Hmm.
and where powerful people can't kick around weak people, or people that are just not powerful.
Hmm.
We should all abide by by the common set of rules, in particular the morals that we all inherently know. Like you mentioned just war theory earlier.
Hmm.
We all inherently understand just war theory, whether you cognitively have studied it or read about it or know about it, you
Yeah.
inherently know that killing innocent people is wrong,
Yeah.
and it's because of Jesus Christ.
Right.
You know, and the thing is, what John F. Kennedy said was what kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we seek? And what he says is it's the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living. And he says we're not talking about the peace of the grave. You know, and the thing is
Wow.
that
Yeah.
that was the foreign policy of his administration, was what was to put an end to the Cold War,
Yeah.
and to start working on eliminating nuclear weapons. That was
Right.
the goal.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you have to think about it. If that policy, or if that foreign policy would have been pursued by the US federal government,
Mhm.
that would have um that would have disempowered a massive entrenched establishment of very, very elite folks who existed behind the veil. And and these are people who have no real marketable skills
Right.
outside of just predating on fear,
Right.
and living in their little world where they exist above the law.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and look, I'm going to go ahead and drop Donald Trump.
Mhm.
There are a lot of issues with Donald Trump, but dude,
Mhm.
that guy crossed over into North Korea, and held that guy's hand. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that doesn't mean that's a good guy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, at that moment, the world was much the thought of North Korea starting a nuclear war was almost impossible
Right.
at
Right.
that point.
Right. And we should also
Right.
remember, we should also remember, for what it's worth, he did create a certain standard for Israel and other Middle Eastern countries.
Oh, the Abraham Accords.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we can debate about that and stuff like that, but he there was a step maybe in the right direction with that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at least we weren't going backwards into, like, you know the conflict that we have now, right? Which is,
Yeah. Well,
you
and
know,
you see, that's one of the reasons that I think the national security state
mm,
today, by and large, they hate Donald Trump,
mm,
not because they think he's not because they think he's a womanizer, and
mm,
not because they think he's a charlatan, and not because they think that he was a phony businessman, or,
mm,
or something like that.
mm,
They hate him because if somebody like him,
mm,
who wants to go and talk to people around the world and broker peace,
mm,
and broker goodwill between countries,
mm,
that would put the national security state people out of work,
right.
and then they would have to go and work a real job. Then they would have to go and work at the normal places like the rest of us, like Walmart
Yeah.
and Home Depot and all these other places, and they would come to realize, wow, things are really not all that great around here.
Yeah, yeah, but I tell you what, knowing all this, the capabilities of this veiled political class that you keep talking about, it'll make you, if you're not somebody who's in that, it'll make you want to stay away from it. You know what I mean? Because I mean,
Those are
you
some
know,
scary people, man.
yeah, it's it is I guess you gotta just have the courage to sacrifice, you know, or stay away from it. You know what I mean? And don't you know don't approach it. I mean, people be talking about all these crime syndicates and stuff, and I'm like, bro, you don't need to worry about the. I mean, you need to worry about them, but you don't need to worry about the crime syndicate. You need to worry about people like J. Edgar Hoover, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, because they're, to me, that sounds far more
And you know, the thing is, the federal government wants to go after, um, you know, people that have underpaid their taxes,
Right.
and they also want to go after people that like that they got busted for having like weed on them or something,
Yeah.
or for having something else, like if they had crack or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, because what they're trying to say is that those people are immoral, and they're making the country a worse place because they cheated on their taxes, or they had drugs on them or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? That may be true, but whatever detriment they are to society
Mm-hmm.
pales in comparison to those to those thugs and autocrats that exist in that little veiled shadowy arena that is above the elected officials. Look at right before the Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan money, the what was it, like 93 billion or 98 billion dollars were passed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House,
Mm-hmm.
remember originally what he was saying was that none of that money was going to be passed until the border thing was taken care of, and even at that point that they were going to be skeptical because the American people don't want to keep handing all this money over to these foreign governments. The American people are the ones that need help, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they took Mike Johnson into a room in DC
Mm-hmm.
with no windows or anything. You can't take your cell phone in there. It's called a skiff.
Mm-hmm.
They took him into one of those rooms, and he came out of that room and he was singing a totally different tune. He was saying now I believe that we have to get Ukraine this money immediately. We have to get Israel this money immediately. We have to
Mm-hmm.
get Taiwan this money immediately. We have to get, you know, we have to dole this money out to everybody around the world because we have to. It's for our
Mm-hmm.
national security.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, what I'm thinking is they probably said, you know what, we're gonna leak to the world your internet search history,
Oh.
you know, or we're gonna leak that we're gonna leak to the world some nudie pictures that your wife sent you, or something like that. Yeah, you know, because remember they they have databases and databases and databases that are slam full of all of your personal information,
Yeah.
and and remember those dirt bags are not above using that in, they're not above blackmailing you.
Yeah. Ruining your life.
Yeah.
That's, but you know what? Hey, hey, hey. This is, and we can end on this. This is why, you know, confession is good for the soul, right?
Amen.
Go to church. Go to church.
Amen. You know, and
Then you don't have, you know, you don't have, you can say, okay, I'm not saying this is like, well, then you don't have anything to worry about. I'm just, you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean. It's like this will help you with your spiritual growth. It'll strengthen you.
and
You will,
you got some absolution,
you got some absolution.
you know.
You know what I mean? And you can, I remember this priest. Uh, he said, when the devil keeps reminding you of your past, you remind him of his future.
that's
Like,
that's
yeah.
dead on, man.
Yeah, yeah. But we're gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to, the next time we talk. We're gonna have to get into how this ties into the church, because remember that article that came out a couple of weeks ago. Maybe this was, might have been, I think it was the beginning of May or late April, and the American Conservative, about how the CIA had been doing deals with the Orthodox Church,
Oh
or the
yes,
bishop in
they
Constantinople or something like that. Yeah.
yes.
So, there are some people who think, well, if they're doing that with the with the Orthodox Church, what have they been doing with the
Well, remember some.
Catholic?
So keep something in mind. The CIA sent the CIA sent a lot of people into the Second Vatican Council
Mm-hmm.
to try to influence it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, thank goodness it was protected by the Holy Spirit. Uh, but they also, I don't, now this goes back maybe two or maybe 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. There was an article that came out written by an Italian journalist,
Mm-hmm.
and this Italian journalist said that a NATO general had
Mm-hmm.
disclosed to him that I think it was NATO or it was U.S. intelligence
Yeah.
knew from the very beginning that Benedict was either going to that Pope Benedict was either
Mm-hmm.
going to step down
Mm-hmm.
or that he'd be forced to step down.
Yeah. I remember that because that that was breaking. That whole report was breaking on LifeSite News, and
Mm-hmm. Yes,
what's the guy's name? Uh,
John Henry Weston.
yeah, John Henry Weston did an interview with, I think, with
Yes,
one of the guys. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, ultimately, I think what people have to reckon with is the fact that these people, this unelected class in our government,
Hmm.
they are hostile to any power centers that they don't exercise dominion over.
Right. Yeah.
That's why they hate churches.
Right.
That's why they're anti-family. They
Hmm.
push feminism.
Hmm.
That's why they're opposed to civic organizations. That's
Hmm.
why they hate communities that can stand in solidarity with one another.
Right.
They absolutely hate it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. 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 That's an interesting point, and
And if that's something that they hate,
yeah.
then that probably means that being a part of a community that can stand in solidarity together, that's a virtuous thing to be a part of, you know? That's
Right, amen. Yeah, amen, amen. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather stand in solidarity with them than stand in solidarity with the United Methodist Church that has to get up when they want to do a talk talking about I'm a she, he, her, them, they pronouns
mhm.
before I make a speech.
Yeah.
Retard. No, I shouldn't say that. I
Well,
can't even say
and
that.
there there was a lady I think there was a lady at that Methodist conference that stood up and she said something like, I don't even know what I am. And you know, I thought to myself that captures the spirit of that council, you know?
That captures the spirit of schizophrenia, bro. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, you know, like how can you even think anymore? Like, if I, you
But
know,
but you know, I think in many ways that's what they want
mm,
American churches to be.
mm,
They want them to be very, very confused, very,
mm-hmm,
very disordered.
mm-hmm,
Then that way there is no ability for Christians of different denominations,
mm-hmm,
or within their denominations, to stand in solidarity together.
right,
Oh, they don't like union. You know, they don't like unions,
right,
and the reason they don't like unions is because they don't like there being they don't like a power structure existing
mm-hmm,
that they don't control.
right, right,
So the way they view it is by weakening any kind of any competing hierarchical systems within society. By weakening those,
mm-hmm,
it makes them implicitly stronger.
right, 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 right. Yeah, man. Well, hey, bro, this was a
Yeah,
great talk, man. We're gonna have
yeah,
to do
man.
this. We're gonna have to do this. We got to, talk more about this because
Well,
you know.
next time maybe we can talk about MKUltra.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We talk a little more about MK Ultra. Let me, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah, yeah. That'll be great. All right, man. Good talking to you, bro.
All right, brother.